Hey guys, thanks for checking out another one of my battle reports. I'm actually super excited to make a video about this one because unlike most of my other games that I've been doing videos for that are pretty straightforward, generally I've been playing orcs. Orcs are more of a straightforward army. Um, this game with Tau was a lot more interesting, and just writing the battle report I noticed a whole bunch of mistakes that I made that I could definitely have corrected and would have been that much more devastating. So we'll start at the top. I'll go over the army lists. So like I mentioned in the battle report, I was playing under points for this one, and I completely forgot to deploy a unit of Pathfinders, plus their 2 gun drones that I had. So while technically I wasn't allowed to deep strike all of my commanders because I didn't put that unit down, I think that's kind of a wash. So that was just, it is what it is. This list is just basically the same as my 2,000 point list that I'm going to be taking for Tau. It's commander spam, so it's designed to be competitive. It does have another 2 units of Pathfinders with gun drones, as well as 2 units of Fire Warriors, strike team, not breachers, and each of those have, or one of those has 2 gun drones and one of those has 1 gun drone. So all in all, it's 33 gun drones when I'm done with it, and then there are 10 commanders as well. This game I ran 7. Only ever 1 fusion blaster one, so it's 9 commanders with 3 times cyclonic ion blasters or cyclic ion blasters and ATSs, and then 1 with quad fusion. So pretty straightforward list, runs the same amount of Crute Hounds and everything like that. The list is designed to just maximize how awesome commanders are. They're probably one of the best units in the game, in my opinion, especially for their points. They shoot extremely accurately. They have access to awesome guns because Tau have really good special weapons. They even fight pretty well. Like they have good melee stats, and then you could do a lot of cool things with them, like heroic intervention, and they can shunt wounds to drones. They're characters, so you can't shoot them unless they're the closest, etc., etc. There's just a whole bunch of tricks you can do with that army that makes it very rewarding to play. At least it seemed that way on paper, and then when I was playing, it turned out that it was very rewarding to play, which is good because I like having armies that are both strong but also fun to play and allow you to have some skill, make some mistakes, learn, all that kind of stuff. So hopefully I'll be getting some 2,000 point games in with that list in the future. The Tyranid list that my opponent took is what I've been seeing a lot of locally in my area. We have a ton of Tyranid players in my local shops. It's probably the most popular army. We don't actually have that many like Space Marines and stuff like that, which is really weird. But it's a lot of people have been taking just nothing but Gene Stealers. I don't really like that. Gene Stealers are great, but they're really fragile. So they need help from stuff like Catalyst, Venom Thropes, things like that make it difficult to run an army of nothing but them because you can only do Catalyst once. The Venom Thropes require you to like bundle your army up, whereas Gene Stealers kind of want to spread a little bit more. Like they're very fast, they can run and charge. They're more of like a flanking and shock trooper element. So they don't really mesh well in with having nothing but them. I like one big unit of Gene Stealers, but then having other stuff like Termagants, Hormagaunts. In general, Tyranids are a really combined arms, non-spammy army, I think, when they work really well. So, which is a really good thing about them. They're probably one of the few armies that is not spammy right now when you play them competitively. So it was probably a few less models, or my opponent probably had a few less models than he should have ordinarily, but I mean, people love Gene Stealers, so it is what it is. The Swarm Lord is also a big package at this point level. I believe him plus the drop pod is almost a third of the entire army, so that was a thing. I don't love the Swarm Lord. I think he's really good, but as people get better at the game and are going to be taking like chaff and learning how to defend against deep strike and stuff like that, he's going to have problems because he's just going to come in, charge a unit of chaff or something like that, and then he's going to get blown up because he's not really more difficult to kill than any other monstrous creature in particular. I mean, he has a 5+ invone, and then he can give himself Catalyst, which he pretty much always should. He's like the best Catalyst target in the army while he's still alive. But that's still not that survivable with only 12 wounds and toughness 6 for such an expensive model. He's 300 points, so I don't know. I think Tyranid players will move away from him a little bit as the game kind of evolves. But yeah, other than that, pretty mixed arms list. I'm not a super big fan of zoanthropes. I think they're overpriced for what they actually bring. But bringing four or probably 4 or 5 is the way to go if you are going to bring them, because that gives you the access to 2 psychic powers, and I believe their smite gets better as well. So bringing 3 is like just terrible, but bringing like 4 to 5, if you have other stuff to protect them, like the venom thropes or Malanthrope, I think they're called. That gives them -1 to hit, and then they have a 3+ invulnerable save, so that actually makes them quite difficult to get rid of. And it's another synapse thing, so that's fine. And then the one lone Biovore is not something that would normally be taken. It's Michael just had some spare points and couldn't really afford like a unit or anything like that, so he just grabbed a Biovore and was like, yeah, I'll just have that. The game itself was. I didn't really realize how short it was until I was doing the battle report. It felt very long while we were playing, and that's because I was doing a lot of like thinking and trying to figure out where I should put stuff. I made a whole bunch of mistakes, so we'll talk about those off the top. I'm going to focus more on my play this time around, just because the primary reason I do these battle reports is to get better as a player, and then also to provide entertainment and stuff like that, hopefully. So this was a game I think I can learn a ton of stuff from. So ignoring the obvious mistake of playing under the point total that we agreed to and not deploying one of my units and all that stuff, I didn't move my Pathfinders before the game started, which I should have. They were not going to be in any danger because of how little shooting the Tyranid army had, and they could have done something. As it was the first turn, they didn't end up doing anything because they were behind a building which blocks line of sight, and then I kind of left them there because I wasn't sure if the Moloch was going to require me to put more shooting into it, but I should have known that a marker light with 3 commanders and their gun drones, like, that's going to take that thing out. And then even in the worst case, I probably could have tried to charge it just to like finish off an extra wound or something, but the math is overwhelmingly in my favor to kill it, especially with the 4 fusion blasters and access to command points. So not moving them before the game started to get them in a better position, either to spread out more marker lights or to just get some pulse carbine shots on the Gene Stealers, was a big mistake. I ended up getting no offense out of them on turn 1, which is not good. Obviously, Tau is a very shooting heavy army, and I have a pretty elite build, so I need to be making sure that I'm getting the most out of my troops that I can. I could have moved them on turn 1, even if I didn't use their move before the game ability, but I just didn't do that either. Like I said, I just wasn't really thinking about it and like doing the math in my head or anything like that, so they ended up just sitting there and being a waste. I also probably didn't position my commanders very well. The one that went on top of the ruins was in a very good spot. He had great line of sight to everything, but he's also adding like another, I think it was like 4 or 5 inches. It was quite a tall building to anything that wants to charge him, which makes those charges a lot dicier, which is good. I think abusing vertical terrain with commanders is very powerful against melee armies, because typically they don't have access to flying or anything like that to get up there with you, whereas obviously all the suits have flying, so they can make use of that rule. But the other ones that I put on the ground between that building and the building where I had like my non-commander units was they were a little bit too close, probably. I wanted to put them there because I wanted to make sure that as I was killing the Gene Stealers, if Michael was pulling the front ones off, that I wouldn't be out of range to shoot. And I also wanted to get them in range of the Zoanthropes because I really wanted to kill at least one Zoanthrope to make it so that their smite was weaker and so that they couldn't cast 2 psychic powers in one turn. Tau is definitely weak to psychic. The psychic phase. This game was probably more of an instance of that than most games will be, because Tyranids are a very psychic army, but the smites and stuff like that were just lighting me up, so I was really wanting to get those out. They're a really easy way to get rid of my gun drones. They are very threatening to my commanders, who don't like when you just do automatic wounds to them. They prefer that you have to hit and roll, and I get like my decent save and all that kind of stuff. So that I was definitely trying to reduce the output of that unit, but I probably could have measured it a little bit better. I also badly misplaced the Crute Hounds on turn 1. If you look at the pictures on the battle report from the Swarm Lord, if he just had himself move with his ability, he would have like probably a 4-inch charge on one of my commanders, and he would just tear it into 1,000 pieces. Like a Swarm Lord is going to kill a commander like probably 99% of the time. So I could have just had the Kroot Hounds screen a little bit more, and then force the Swarm Lord to like try a smite, or force like the drop pod to shoot into the Kroot Hounds, something like that. I could have also used some of the gun drones to block. Like I just needed to put a lot of stuff in the Swarm Lord's way because, like I said, he hits like a truck, but I'm almost certain to kill him after that because he's very vulnerable, especially with the kind of guns my army brings to the table. So I probably should have lost a commander to that guy. It's just that Michael forgot to have him move himself, which is like the whole reason you take him with a drop pod, because he pretty much has a guaranteed charge whenever he comes down, instead of being risky like almost everything else in the game. So that was like a fortunate break for me, but in the future I definitely need to keep that in mind. I don't think it would have changed the outcome of the game much the way it went, but it's certainly something that I need to bear in mind because my commanders are like my whole army, so I can't be having them get charged or throwing them out there and into the wind. And that's the whole job of the Kroot Hounds, is to screen, to get in the way, and I didn't make effective use of positioning on that turn for that. Other than that, my first turn went decently. I ended up wasting one of the commanders because I killed the Moloch with only 2. I could have certainly positioned them a little bit better so that they could have been within 18 inches of the Gene Stealers and then also 18 inches of the Moloch. But I just didn't. I just put them way in the back. I think I was a little bit afraid of putting them up front so much, which I really shouldn't have been, because when I do the math on the Gene Stealers, they don't do that much damage to commanders. They hit on 2s because of the Broodlord, but they wound on 5s, and then they need 6s to get a decent AP. Otherwise, I have a good shot at making some of those saves. And then when I reduce the amount of attacks that they have, plus like leverage terrain, so it's hard for them to pile in, stuff like that. They really didn't do that much damage. Like I think one of my commanders got charged by like 5 of them, and he took 1 wound, and it wasn't like super poor rolls or anything. So I should have been a little, like at the same time saying I should defend them a little bit more, I also need to know what they maybe don't need defense against. They certainly need defense against something like the Swarm Lord or big monsters who can just tear one of the commanders in half, but being charged by like some basic infantry or something, even more melee specialists like Gene Stealers, is not that bad when you really do the math on it. So that's just something I need to play more with and get in sync with, is what can they absorb and what can't they absorb, and that just comes with getting table time with the army. My turn 2, I again was pretty lackadaisical with my positioning. The really big mistake I made was not calling, I forget what the name of the ability is, but the one where the commander can say him and everybody within 6 inches can advance and shoot without penalty. That would have gotten me within half range for the fusion blasters on the Swarm Lord, and then I probably would have been able to kill the Swarm Lord just with the fusion blaster commander with the output that I got from him, because I ended up getting 4 hits with the marker light, 2 wounds. I rerolled 1 wound with a command point, so I got 3. He failed all 3 of his invulnerable saves, and then I did 7 damage off 3 dice. So I rolled a little bit lower than average, but Michael also didn't make any invulnerable saves, so that's kind of a wash there. But getting in range to roll those 2d6, pick the highest, would have meant that I probably could have killed him with just the fusion blaster commander, or maybe just put like 1 or 2 cyclic ion blasters from another commander into him instead of all 3 to finish him off, and that just makes it so that I'm getting that much more mileage out of my guns. I didn't end up using that ability at all this game, either the 2 war calls, and they're very powerful, so I need to keep those in mind as I'm playing. The advance and shoot one in particular is extremely strong. Yeah, then like I said, some of my positioning was a little bit lackadaisical. I probably should have been moving the commanders more towards the pod. Just had them in like max range of the Gene Stealers, and then made it so I could charge the pod and go towards more of the bottom of my table edge. And that way it would have been harder for the Gene Stealers and the Broodlord to actually get to me. Again, those are kind of minor positional things, because I mean, I knew at the end of that turn I was probably going to just devastate his army, and there's really no coming back from that. But it's not good to depend on those kind of things. And the Tau army that I'm playing is very positionally dependent. So that's just something I need to work on and be a little bit more conscious of in the future. Yeah, those are pretty much the big mistakes. Like I said, not getting as much offense out of my army on turn 1 as I could have. That's the thing I was most unhappy with, and I recognized that right away when I was playing. I was like, man, I didn't do anything with these Pathfinders. I let like one of these commanders do nothing. Like, this is just not good. I need to, like, if I played that a little bit better, I probably would have been able to remove the extra attack from like all the Gene Stealer units, just something like that, which probably wouldn't have mattered in the actual outcome of the game, but it's adding those small advantages as much as you can, one on top of the other, that gets you those big leads, and then that's what ultimately wins you the game. So I definitely need to work on that. The Cruet Hounds in particular, I need to make sure that I'm doing all I can with them. I had them spaced 2 inches apart from each other, so maximum distance, just to form like a bubble around the army. When I initially deployed them, I should have probably pulled them back a little bit. They took some smites that they could have avoided and things like that. I was just trying to build a really big perimeter to keep the Swarm Lord out, but he just he didn't come down, which is definitely the right call. Waiting until turn 2 with the Swarm Lord was very, very smart. Same thing with Death Leaper, because obviously Death Leaper was going for my my commander who wasn't on the board yet. So that was, yeah, a really good call, but I should have been a little more realistic about the perimeter I can form with them. And then once I saw that the Swarm Lord wasn't down after his turn 1, then I can kind of move them a little bit to the west of my perspective on the game, because that's almost certainly where the Swarm Lord's going to come down. There's not much room on the Tyranid side of the table because they have a lot of Gene Stealers and stuff like that. There's no room on the bottom of the table or the right of the table from my perspective, because I have units there and stuff, so he's not going to be able to land within 9 inches. So really the only place he could have gone is on the left. And I could have kind of kept him out over there and pushed him back, and then I would have definitely rendered him completely ineffective, which would have been super awesome. But yeah, I mean, the army performed really well. It was super cool to see the Death Leaper just die to Overwatch. That was fantastic. I didn't hit it with any of the fusion blasters, but I overcharged the first cyclic ion blaster commander that I shot, and he ended up getting, I think, 2 hits. And then putting like 4 wounds on him or something like that, and then I didn't overcharge the next one, and then he finished him off. So that was really cool. I don't think he was going to kill the commander anyways, just because I don't really think Death Leaper is that good. He's better at killing like really small characters, like IG characters and stuff like that. So I don't know. He's kind of whatever, but he's not very expensive either, so it's a bit of a wash. But yeah, that was really cool. I got to kill that guy for literally free. I mean, I didn't waste anything to do it. I just took a wound on one of my commanders, which is totally worth it. The Overwatch from the other commanders was also impressive. I think I got 4 commanders plus like 4 gun drones, and I managed to kill 5 Gene Stealers with that. Yeah, which is, I mean, it's not crazy, but it's definitely significant that that unit was at full strength when they were coming in, so that stripped their attack off of them. And it's just so much free extra offense, and that was without my army even being really put together. Like, in a lot of games, my commanders are all going to be very close to each other, so I would get more shots. I wouldn't be losing gun drones for free as easily. Like, I was just losing them to smites and all that kind of stuff. So maybe we'll get some more gun drone shots. So yeah, the Overwatch for Tau is definitely powerful. When I was thinking about it on paper, I was like, it's still hitting on 6s and all that kind of stuff. It's not that big of a deal. But when you get the volume that the commanders have with the guns that I give them, plus the strength of the guns, it actually does major work. So if there's ever a situation where, like there's one melee unit barreling down against my commanders, I'm probably going to be able to remove a good chunk of it, just when it charges me, and that's really powerful, not only to keep my guys alive, but to also kill some of my opponent's stuff for essentially for free. Most armies don't do that. Most armies Overwatch is kind of, just a formality, like, oh, I got, 1 hit, and didn't do anything or whatever, and it's not very impressive unless you're charging like 50 conscripts or something like that. But for Tau, I would say it's a major part of their toolkit now that I've played with it a little bit more. So I'll be looking to maximize that in the future. Overall, I think Tau is, for me, more fun to play than Orcs. Orcs are very fun to play aesthetically, and like they always give a good game to your opponent because nobody ever gets like just trounced by Orcs. They're always going to kill a bunch of your boys and all that kind of stuff. So they're a pretty good like army to play against someone just like for fun, or for if someone's a little more casual or something like that. But they don't really require much thinking, and there's very little to improve with them. Most of their stuff is like placement of characters, knowing the little tricks as far as like piling and consolidation, and stuff like that. But they are a very straightforward army. Not that that's bad. That's very helpful at times and can be very like relaxing and stress-free to play. But Tau is a little more my style, where they are very powerful, but they're somewhat glass cannony. Not super glass cannony, but certainly not one of the more resilient armies in the game or anything. But they have like, they're very toolboxy. Like the commanders give you the tools to deal with any threat in the game. So you have a lot of decisions to make as far as like target priority, placement. Everybody can like move very well, so you can interact with the board a lot, which is very fun. How they interact with missions is cool, because again, my army is pretty elite, so I have to think about being able to shoot people off of objectives, being able to claim objectives, things like that. Or as like Orcs just kind of just go dump a unit on them, and it's like it's mine because you don't have this many bodies. So yeah, all those things contribute to a very fun and rewarding army to play for me. I certainly don't think that Tau are weak, like people are saying. The old builds from 7th edition, which I did not play and don't know very well, I'm sure those are bad because they involved like the really big suits and stuff, which are just pretty horrible now, to be honest with you. Like they're not really worth their points in my opinion. And you can't really play a combined arms Tau list very well in terms of competitive play. But the one thing I've been saying to people is really no army can do that. Like Tyranids can do it. Ynnari can do it a little bit, but most competitive lists right now are pretty spammy. I mean, Guards list is spammy, Chaos lists are spammy, all the Space Marine lists are horrifically spammy, either with Razorbacks or with super broken Storm Ravens. Tau or like Orcs are spammy. Tau is just pretty much in the same boat as everybody else. I get that people say that playing commander spam is boring, but I don't know, I just disagree. I think it's really fun, and even though the list might look boring on paper, it plays very interestingly, a lot more interestingly than my Orcs do, I would say. And nobody really complains about the fact that Orcs have to be spammy, probably because they're a horde army. But yeah, I mean, hopefully when the codexes start coming, there'll be some rebalancing of points and stuff like that, and there'll be additional options, not just for Tau, but for every army, because the game is a little one-dimensional as far as competitive list building right now. But for the time being, yeah, I think Tau are in a great place. I would feel like I have a game against a lot of like the really broken armies in the game, so like like 6 to 7 Storm Ravens, Razorwing Flock spam, Brimstone Horror spam, all that kind of stuff. Whereas I don't feel like I have a game with that on my Orcs unless I specifically build to counter those armies, which I'm never going to do. Obviously, that's not realistic, and it's not something you could ever take to a tournament. My Tau list is pretty take on all comers. And I think it can hang with the best of them. I'm not saying it's like favored or it's a super broken list or anything, but it gives you a chance, and that's what you're looking for with a competitive list. Is you looking for okay, this matchup is 40-60 against me, but I can do it. If the dice go my way, if I make good decisions, things like that, then I can get this down. And that's, I think, something that Tau can do. So yeah, definitely not weak by any stretch of the imagination. I'll probably be playing them some more either this week or in the coming weeks. I just ordered the last few models for the army today. Actually, not few models, but all the Kroot Hounds, some more of the Pathfinders, and some more Fire Warriors. And then I also have to go through and like magnetize all the weapons on the commanders, and yeah, that army's gonna need a lot of work before it's even ready to start being painted. But most people seem okay with the proxies in the meantime, and I should have the rest of the stuff early next week, which is cool. So yeah, thanks for listening to my thoughts on Tau. I'm working on like a primer, I guess, like a little tactica for the commander spam army, at least how I play it. I know there's definitely other builds out there. Just to kind of have me acquainted with the list and have something I can reference as I play it. You know, like, okay, yes, this is a strength of the list. Okay, I need to do this in this situation, etc., etc. So hopefully I'll be able to post that sometime soon, and I'll try to make it like a living document where I do like matchups and stuff like that in there, and hopefully it'll be a little in depth. But that's a sort of a work in progress thing. So yeah, thanks for checking out my video, and I will hope to have at least probably one more up this week. Probably another league game because the pairings come out tomorrow. So that'll probably be another 1,500 points with Tau, and then I'll see if I can get in a casual game as well. I do have some time off work this week, so pretty much just spending it playing Warhammer and doing stuff around the house. All right, see you guys later. Bye.